Hello, my name is David Wiener. I'm from the Likud Angle division, and I have the honor to sit here today in the Knesset with the Speaker of the House, Yuli Edelstein. It's nice to see you today.
Nice to see you. Thank you for coming.
My pleasure, my pleasure. So my first question is, now we're going to elections. I think one of the most interesting thing, I think also for the right, also for the left, is the splitting up of different parties, whether it's the Jewish Home, whether it's, I think this morning the religious parties split up, the Haredi party split up, and yesterday I think the joint list of the Arab parties split up. What sort of effect do you think that would have overall, now that also the left is kind of all shattered apart and the right is also kind of shattered? What is your vision that you think is going to happen, or what would you want to happen?
Well, first of all, your definition of interesting is either tongue-in-cheek or an understatement, because I'm really worried about what's going on for two reasons. The first one, as a member of the Likud and someone who belongs to what we define as right-wing or right and religious camp in this country, I'm very much afraid that the moment you have 5 or 6 parties showing in all the polls that they are on the verge of the threshold, with 4 seats, 5 seats, well, you don't have to be a great professor of math to understand that probably 2 or 3 of them wouldn't make it into the next Knesset, which could be very damaging to the coalition, very damaging to Likud. We just may find ourselves in a situation where we will be a strong and leading party and we won't have natural coalition partners. And this is definitely something that worries me a lot. The second thing, on a totally different scale, is the number of parties that are practically a one-man show. And one may say, and I've heard it many times, but primary elections, there's a lot of deals and all this dirt surfacing, and I still believe that the moment the parties are elected into the Knesset, one of the positions or one of the functions of the Knesset is to supervise and control the activities of the government. You can't really believe that a member of Knesset from this kind of one-man party, when he will be or she will be supposed to supervise the ministry headed by the leader of that party, will be serious in his or her job. She totally or he totally depends on the basically one word coming from the mouth of this or that party leader. So I think that on both issues, that of my political views, the right wing, and as the Knesset speaker, I see this tendency, and I can't even find anything positive to say about it. You said what my hope is. My hope is that at least some of these parties will somehow unite, combine, and run in some normal lists. At least, as I've said, there won't be a Knesset with 18 different factions without any possibility to create a stable coalition.
Do you think there's a risk of what happened in 1992?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
The right wing, I think, they got more votes nationally, but they ended up...
because of Tchia and some other parties, good people, I know them all personally, but it was really damaging, not just for the right wing, it's not just a political statement. That's what brought the Oslo process to our country.
Right. So you've been now, I think, the speaker since 2013, now it's the second term of speakership, even though it was a shorter term back then. Is this something that, if the Likud remains in power in the next government, which hopefully they will, do you see yourself as remaining in that position, or are you looking to move to something else, a different position as a minister or something?
Well, first of all,
even prime minister, if you
I do have to say that the process is still very long. I first have to succeed in the primary elections in the Likud. We have to win general elections, and I've just said that it's not going to be that simple. Likud showing well in polls is very important, but not enough.
Right,
for
which
winning
was the
the
opposite last time. They showed, I think, around 20 last
right,
time.
and
thank
we
God
all
we
of a
got
sudden
like
grew
almost
up
30.
in the last several days. But it just shows that it works both ways. That's why we have to work very hard to win the elections. And then the short answer would be yes. I think that I have enough challenges here in this office to want to keep it and to stay here. I'll be brutally open with you. I think that when I was re-elected anonymously as the Speaker of the Knesset, first of all, it was a great message. Members of Knesset who already had the experience with me as the Speaker, a vote of confidence, absolutely. And I said, now, after I showed everyone that I can be the Speaker of the Knesset, it's time for me to start some parliamentary reforms to change probably the relations between the Knesset and the government, to do things that will make the Knesset a different place. To be quite frank, instead of that, I spent a lot of my time trying to bring around at least some basic discipline and to change the patterns of behavior of members of Knesset on both sides of the aisle. And it took so many efforts and so much energy that I barely had time to really think about in-depth parliamentary reforms and change of things. It's not that we haven't done anything, we've done things, but I think that we have many more plans. So if Likud wins, I would be more than happy to keep this office.
And as during your time, now it's a span of 5 years total, right? Or we're going into the sixth year.
Yeah.
What do you see as being the most challenging part of the position of being the Speaker of the Knesset?
You don't get tired of the job itself. You get physically tired, but there are so many missions all at once. You start your day with the notion that you'll have to deal with a big meeting with, say, mayors, because there is some conference of mayors and they invite you as the Speaker of the Knesset to address them. While on the way there, you get a call that there is a big problem at the plenary session with some vote, with some legislation, and you immediately have to take a decision about it. But the moment you come back from the mayors and solve the problem at the plenary session, you recall that on this very day, the head of the parliament from, I don't know, Lithuania is coming on an official visit, and you have to get ready for that meeting with them. So in basically 2 or 3 hours, you're Minister of Interior, you are Minister of Parliamentary Affairs, you are Minister of Foreign Affairs. So it's challenging, but it's also, as I've said, it's a great advantage. You never get bored. And still, my big challenge was, as I've said, in the area of the image of the Knesset. There was never one single meeting with a group of visitors to this house, be it, I don't know, elementary school kids or elderly from some trade union group, where this wouldn't come up and people wouldn't say, but you're the Speaker of the Knesset. How can you tolerate such behavior? How can you tolerate this kind of language? And I always explain once again that it's about voters. It's not about any speaker. You can find a speaker who is 10 times better than me, but the situation will still stay the same. The voters, especially, by the way, the registered members of different parties that still have primary elections, have to think twice before sending someone to represent them in the Knesset.
I think that Likud right now, from what I understood, is the only party that has primaries.
No. Where I think that there are still 4 or 5 parties that have primary elections. It's Likud, it's Labor, it's Meretz. There are
right, they have just different forms.
Right? different forms, but they elect their lists. That's the point.
Right. So when it comes to that, I think yesterday they recommended certain changes that were requested within the Likud by the Prime Minister or by different ministers of Knesset. As people coming from making Aliyah from foreign countries and yourself, I think that one of the biggest changes for people is the possibility of allowing somebody that ran formerly on the immigration spot to run again on that spot a second time. Do you see that as something that's beneficial, something that could?
Well, first of all, there's no final decision here. The Central Committee will vote on it coming Sunday, and then we'll know the exact details. It's always about finding the right balance. There's always this question of how long you want the list of so-called national slots to be, allowing outgoing ministers and members of Knesset to compete for these slots, as opposed to ridings, districts, the districts that will be represented on the Likud list coming from different parts of the country, and young, new immigrants, new women, and so on and so forth. Also, they have reserved slots there. So it's always the question of balance. I, for one, think that the members of Knesset that already served in the Knesset had a chance to prove themselves enough and then compete on the national list. I never asked for reserved slots. I do have to tell you with a smile that in one election campaign there was great pressure on me from the Prime Minister to take the reserved slot for the immigrants, because he believed for some reason that I was an electoral danger inside the Likud. And I said then, I'm saying now, I think that if people respect me and want me to be their representative in the Knesset, they'll vote for me. But I think that after being a member of Knesset, and in my case a minister, even Minister of Immigrant Absorption, to pretend that I'm again a new immigrant is kind of strange in my eyes.
Right. So I'll have a final question. I remember a few months ago you came to Bet Shemesh to speak to the English speakers there, a pretty nice crowd. And somebody asked you regarding, because Bet Shemesh, as most people know, is a very ultra-Orthodox, huge population of ultra-Orthodox. And even though it seems that everybody's also surprised about the results, I think somebody asked you the question, like what should we do about the fact that they come out and vote 99%, and so it seems like that's kind of your philosophy. I remember your answer there. It seems like the same sort of philosophy that you're giving right now.
My answer never changes in this sense. If you're worried by someone else getting out and voting, get out to vote. That's the only answer. And then, if everyone goes and votes, the Knesset will reflect properly the mosaic, the population of the Israeli society. And this is very important, by the way. That's why I'm not such a great supporter of raising the threshold and bringing us to a two-party system. I'm not sure that the Israeli society is already right for that. I think that we need several parties to represent the Israeli population in the Knesset. Once again, I'm talking about the right balance between the situation where we have 20 or 30 parties without any difference between them, except for the fact that this general or that general.
Matter of ego versus.
Exactly. So I think that this is definitely not something I want to see in Israeli politics. But having said that, I'm not sure that we are already prepared for a two-party system. So the balance, something in the middle, would be right. But for that, to reach this balance, people really have to, on an election day, go out, put a bulletin, and never say, never, not on the election day nor any other day, what do I care about what's going on in the Knesset. Everything that's going on in the Knesset should concern every citizen of this country.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And with that, as the Likud, representing the Likud Anglo division, we would greatly appreciate that all of our friends and all of our followers would vote for Yuli Edelstein, not only for the Likud as a national, but as specifically we would like to endorse Yuli Edelstein during the primaries.
Thank you.